The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the people reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and gave them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who was coming into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
With 40 years of priesthood behind me, I confess that sometimes I find myself glancing a bit too long in the rearview mirror. I think of the hopes and the plans and dreams and visions I entertained about ministry back when I was in the seminary. And I find myself asking, what have I actually accomplished? What still waits? What's been deleted altogether? But mostly the questions are, have I done enough? Has it been enough? And I imagine that those whose hearts and souls and lives have been joined together in love for a long time find yourselves asking similar questions, both of yourself and possibly of one another. I'm sure parents do the same. People do the same with their careers. In fact, we probably all ask that question in various contexts a bit more than we imagine. At least I know I do. Maybe we stop in to visit a friend or a loved one who's ill. Maybe we even bring them Holy Communion. And then as we get back into our car, it dawns on us how pitiable it really is to give someone only 20 minutes of our time, or maybe even an hour, when we know that truthfully they are alone almost the entire day. We find ourselves wishing we had more time. or we find ourselves questioning our priorities. In much the same way, we volunteer from a rest to serve as an usher or in some other ministry, and we wonder, is that enough? We write checks, maybe to St. Blaise, maybe to the Haiti Outreach Mission or to the Pope Francis Center or some other good cause, and we pause and stare at the amount. And with frustration, we wish it could be a lot more. Those are the kind of thoughts I brought to this Sunday's readings. And as I looked at them, it occurred to me that perhaps the greater miracle in today's gospel and in today's first reading, where Elisha feeds 100 people with 20 loaves, is not the multiplication of loaves and fish. Nor is it, as sometimes people preach, that people began sharing what they brought with each other. But rather, I think the greater miracle is the hope and possibility raised by the simplest and smallest acts of kindness. Five loaves, 2 fish, a little boy. You know, we want to make a measurable difference. A difference we can, at the end of our life, look back and see and feel and point to. But the story of both Elisha and of Jesus multiplying loaves tell us that our efforts, no matter how seemingly small and insignificant, are enough. In Jesus' hands, they become enough. Enough to make us part of building the reign of God. Enough perhaps to transform someone's day, maybe even their entire life. Enough to remind us of all that we have for which to be grateful. Enough to change us, to convert us. In our culture, it seems that almost everything is measured by results. I sometimes think that's one of the obstacles in passing on faith to the next generation. They've lived entirely within that world of results, and discipleship isn't about results at all. It's about living faithfully, acting faithfully. Making a difference does not necessarily translate into great works, but acting out of the humble love of God and making that love a reality in the lives of others, especially those who are hungry, are marginalized. God calls us to act out of compassion and mercy, even when it feels inefficient and pointless and ineffective, because blessed and broken and given by Jesus, God makes it enough with many, many baskets left over.